Whenever you're ready.
All right. All right. So, human impacts on Lake Okeechobee. Specifically, to what extent has human activity in the area surrounding Lake Okeechobee impacted the lake and nearby communities, or me technologically? So, the pollution in Lake Okeechobee has been a problem for a long time. It has been gradually getting worse, and has been since about 150 years ago. It's become from, or has been, it has been coming from global heat, gradual pollution from people, throwing stuff away, and other smaller impacts. But the human development around the lake, with sugar growing operations taking water from the lake, pumping it back with fertilizer and chemicals, was the single biggest thing. But with this, Lake Okeechobee has gradually become more and more toxic. There is toxic algae in it, and it has become more and more rampant and gotten worse and worse, snowballing, and eventually has reached a point where it is completely unsuitable for a lot of life, unless, crocodiles. But humans, catfish, other things that used to be there cannot now, because the pollution has gotten worse because of multiple reasons, but mainly human impacts. But even before that direct pollution, where they're literally taking the water out and then putting it back in with chemicals and fertilizer, there was multiple problems that have been polluting it for the last 150 years. South in particular, it being in the South, sugarcane and vegetable farming was a big problem that slowly but surely put nitrogen and phosphorus back into it. And as this happened, nitrogen and phosphorus would go straight back into the algae, giving more algae. More algae would snowball the problem, making it so more animals were dying, more nitrogen, more algae, so on and so forth. Which just made it worse and worse progressively. So the now biggest impact, or one of the biggest impacts potentially ever for the lake, is the watershed restoration project. It was undertaken a attempt to help restore the wastelands, the wetlands, and the water supply. And this was started in 2000, and then they halted it effectively and then started again in 2016. And with $2 billion and tons of planning from the South Florida Water Development, something underneath on the next slide, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, they intended to expand wetlands, make 80 aquifer storage systems that would help during the dry season, which was a big problem that made the algae even worse. And they wanted to restore it along the Kissimmee River and reduce the discharge it actually came, effectively pointing it south into the Everglades, which could take it. They wanted to start this, and the technology that has been impacting it so far has been not as much, that it's still planning, but the potential for it is to completely change the history of the lake itself, change the algae, change how much algae there is, and the communities around it. All right. Was basically what I said on the last slide. The potential for it is for it to completely save the lake, which is the idea, or it can make it even worse, like some people have argued. And last slide too. Yeah, that's really all I have, to be honest.
All right, well, let me ask you a couple questions.
Please.
Hold on a sec. Let me pull the questions up. That helps a ton. Sure. All right. Tell me how your research question evolved as you moved through the process.
It was actually a really good one. So when I started this and I was talking to my group mates, I thought technology would be the easy one. And I wanted to do something along the lines of how, what I mentioned earlier, where the water gets taken out, pumped into irrigation systems, and pumped back, and then how that would slowly but surely pollute the lake. But there's no real evidence for that. And writing, I started to realize that really quick. And the only thing that I really had was going through and then trying to source specific company that does that, that use it for irrigation and then put it back in the water. But then it's such a broad topic, I couldn't specifically get a number for that or statistics. Like there's no evidence I could use. Anyway, that sucked. And I knew that I was gonna have something about the restoration project in the beginning, but that ended up becoming like the only thing I had working for me with the paper.
Right. And if you had, what advice would you give to somebody who would be doing this topic again in the future?
Honestly, don't do technology because I found it really hard. But I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at it wrong, and there's another way I could have done this that would have worked out better. But it's not the best idea. It was like I remember I talked to you. My first one, it was going to be environmental impacts from social media. Like it is not a good idea. But yeah, definitely
Okay.
take it. Not just don't do it.